Not looking well.
No.
Morning.
We're recording, but it's not as best it could be. Anyway,
Where's the IT?
it's a little dim. I think we need new bulbs, but we've had some electrical problems here. We're looking at the Old Testament, kind of a survey. We're in the book of Numbers, trying to figure out what's in there other than numbers. We talked a little about that, but it's not just a book of numbers. It also has some events and reactions and some lessons, hopefully, for us as we talk about God's relationship with his people as they the promised land. And that's kind of where we start in Numbers, looking at the people who came out of Egypt, this land. God didn't take them along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea because there were warlike tribes there. So they were a little bit inland in the Sinai Peninsula. One of these days we'll figure out how to look, get a map up there. Maybe I'll bring one from home. But anyway, so we looked at, if you need, anybody need a question sheet? We've got a few left. If you, like one, let's see. Okay. Oh, that's, that was not put it on both sides. There we go. Anybody else? This one didn't print both sides. Okay. We talked about the Levites and their job as we read through the book of Numbers. This is what we find, that not only a census, but a recitation of the jobs of the Levites who had the opportunity to carry all that stuff that was made to be a part of the tabernacle. And, you know, it's one thing to think about it when it's put up and you've got the tent aspects, the poles and the cloths and all of that. But it's another thing to consider when it's taken down. And you got to carry it around, including the Ark of the Covenant, including the Ark of the altar of incense, the lights, the table, the showbread, the big altar of burnt offerings. They were made, most of them with hole rings, so they could put staves through or wooden poles and carry them that way. So the Lord anticipated when he gave the instructions that they'd be on the move. Anyway, what else do we talk about? Oh, there's some rules and regulations here in Numbers. We talked about marital infidelity, how it seems it's more of a something for the women to be concerned about than the men. But anyway, where else? We were talking about the Nazarites last time, and I think that's kind of where we left off. The Nazarites were people who dedicated themselves to the Lord in a special way, either for life or for a period of time. And I was just thinking about it. We don't have any Nazarite rules today in the New Testament. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. We're looking at the Old Testament and the book of Numbers and some questions relating to that. we were talking about a group of people called the Nazarites, and especially dedicated to God. Do we have that in the New Testament? I don't know. You know, in some religions, there's the priesthood and the laity. But I think under the New Testament, all Christians are priests. Priests in the Old Testament and in some groups are special because they have a special access to God. And if you want to go to God, you go through a priest. But we don't have that under the New Testament. We all have access to God through prayer. And so we have some people think, well, the preacher, he's kind of like a priest, but he's just a servant of the church. Elders are not priests, they're overseers to strengthen the body. But you don't go through the elder to get access to God or the deacon or anybody.
There was a lot of infants.
What's that?
There was a lot of infants, the firstborns,
Okay.
and 22,273
Where's that now?
in Numbers 3, verse 42. And
Okay.
42 and 40.
42. All right. Levites. Let's see. Oh, the firstborn, as the Lord commanded. The total number of firstborn males a month old or more was 22,200. Okay, that's one we kind of overlook, isn't it?
Yeah, because when my eye caught it, I'm like, we didn't talk about that.
Okay, well, that's a good chance to do that. What was the rule for the firstborn? The firstborn animals were to be sacrificed to God. And the Lord said the firstborn of human beings were to be dedicated to God also. But what?
Instead of all the Israelites having to take their firstborn, it was the Levites' firstborn.
Yeah.
So that was it's a 22,000 Levite firstborn? Is that what this is?
No, I think that's the total.
That sounds low.
All the firstborn of the Israelites were 22,273. And see what happened. The Lord said to Moses, take the Levites in place of all the firstborn of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites in place of their livestock, and so on. So what he's getting really fine with the numbers. We looked earlier in chapter 3, the number of Levites of 20 years old and upward of the different Levite families was 22,300. So we have 22,373. So we've got 273 firstborn Israelites who exceed the number of Levites. Yeah, how big it, anyway. Collect 5 shekels for each one, according to the sanctuary shekel. They had to be redeemed also. In other words, if you weren't going to dedicate your firstborn to the Lord, you had to redeem him. And this is providing for that. They say 22,000 Levites. Let's see, did I miscount? 15. Anyway, the Levites, we've got 86, we've got 75, 86, and 62. How many is there? 15, 21,
223, 62 was the last one.
should be 22,000. The point is, so there's 273. So the Lord, what does that tell us?
So they did it once. How did this continue? So they took that count that day. They could redeem, if they didn't want to pay, what did they do with their kids?
Well, I don't know. Technically, collected the redemption money from those who exceeded the number redeemed by the Levites. From the firstborn of the Israelites, he collected silver and gave it to Aaron and the priests. So anyway, well, they had to make special offerings for others who were the firstborn as they went along, or at least they were supposed to.
Mhm.
We wonder again how much of this was observed, or how much. I was just looking at they dedicate the firstborn animal. Anyway, what is that? It illustrates the Lord is, he sees down to the number of the individuals. I mean, it's not like a rounding. It's the Lord is interested in the details of service. And so they observed that.
So Nazarite, you could decide yourself to take it out, but some people did it for their unborn.
It seems so,
Yeah.
yeah. It seems so. And you wonder, well, someone's dedicated by his parents to the Lord. What do you think about that? Some, Samuel, from what we understand, was faithful throughout his life. Others, like Samson, had their problems. Jesus said, some are eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. Some want to use their lives exclusively for the service of God. We don't hear a whole lot about that. When I was growing up, there was a guy who was on the radio, a preacher, and he said that was what his job was at one point. You can't think of his name.
Not William Saunders.
No. Anyway, but that's part of the Israelite rules and regulations, that some people would want to be specially dedicated to God, not get involved in other things. Anyway, what else? So that was in chapter 6. And then there's offerings at the dedication of the tabernacle, the glory of the Lord that filled the place. You have a whole chapter here of each tribe making an offering. They're the same. But they repeat them all, setting up the lamps and the Passover. Was everything peaceful and happy in the Israelites after they were brought out of Egypt? They're on their way to the promised land. Everything must be going good, right? Just like Christians, we're redeemed from sin. We're on our way to the promised land. Everything is great, right?
Well, they complained about
Yeah.
food for one thing.
Yeah, it seems like they're filled with complaint. And we read in chapter 11 of some of those And the people, we read about the dedication of the temple, all these, the great things happening. The silver trumpets, make 2 trumpets of hammered silver, use them for calling the community together. Interesting that they have a whole paragraph about the trumpets. They've been camped in front of Mount Sinai, and so they move out in their specified order by tribe. And then in chapter 11, things seem to be going great, but the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. And when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. The people cried out to Moses. He prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was called Taberah. Then what happens? They want meat. They've been getting what? Manna. But, we want some meat. And so here's a little description of the manna. I don't know what coriander seed is like. Anybody ever see coriander?
It's like really small, right?
Is that right?
I Googled it.
Oh, okay.
It's like really, really little.
Look like resin.
Yeah.
No.
Buy it, right? Isn't it in the spices?
Yeah,
Yeah.
coriander is, and I think it's, cilantro grows from it, I think.
Okay. And they cooked it in a pot. It tasted like something made with olive oil. Anyway,
Shell like that.
I like it. I
If I were
like it.
hungry.
Anyway, they imagined if they came up with different ways to prepare it. But when they want meat, the Lord says, I'll provide meat. I'll give you quail to eat, but it'll be so much that it won't be good for you. I will give them meat to eat for a whole month. And Lord, he gave the quail blew in on the wind and in a huge quantity. And anyway.
They comparing what they had to eat when they were in Egypt, the melons and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But yet you still use slaves, you know? We're gonna compare it to what they're doing now. You're out of there, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Forget the bad, huh?
I'm grateful.
it's just yeah, they think of going back to Egypt. Oh, how pleasant that was. They had some fruits and vegetables there that are not available in the wilderness. And so, oh, isn't it terrible? They forget the slavery that they were under, the oppression, and the bad things there. But that's just like us as human beings, isn't it? Sin is attractive. We think of, oh boy, wouldn't that be great? But we don't see the downside. People take into their bodies things that I guess make them feel good for a while, but then have some very destructive effects. That's human nature. And that's why we think about these things, to keep ourselves focused on the Lord and his will for us. So the quail comes and it says you'll have it for a month until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it because you've rejected the Lord who is among you and have wailed before him, saying, why did we ever leave Egypt? So it's displeasing to the Lord when we don't see the blessings that we have. What's Moses' reaction? he's in a difficult position. He's to be the leader. But Moses, yeah,
Did he call for, help, you know, to have, other men
yeah.
come in and take
At one
care?
point, he said, it's too much for one man, and so the Lord appointed some others here, the 70. He goes, the Lord became exceedingly, Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you, that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised on oath to their forefathers? Where can I get meat for all these people? And so that's, we don't necessarily have the leadership of 600,000 men, but that sometimes is our reaction, isn't it? Why me? Why do I have these burdens, whatever they are? And that's the way that our focus draws inward from time to time. But we find that happening to Moses. His focus becomes inward, and he doesn't really, in a sense, he's losing faith in the Lord. So that's a lesson to us all. I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you're going to treat me, put me to death right now. If I found favor in your eyes, and do not let me face my own good.
This has really been stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Everybody's coming to him. Everybody's complaining. So the Lord, bring me 70 of Israel's elders. And so he provides some relief so that the kind of the minor cases will go to those guys, and not everyone will come to Moses. So he imparts some of his spirit. I will take the spirit is on you and put the spirit on them. They will help you carry the burden so that you will not have to carry it alone.
You got to learn to delegate authority. See,
Yeah.
Some people have a real problem with that. They want to micromanage everything, you know.
Well, he had to take direction. I mean, God hadn't told him he could do that.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah, he needed some guidance there, definitely got it.
yeah.
But that's what he had to learn, basically. And the elders in the church have to do the same thing sometimes, right? Sometimes we have to delegate certain responsibilities to deacons and other people.
Yeah.
We can't do everything, we burn out,
That's the point. We can't do everything. Sometimes we feel that the success or failure of the church or of some work is entirely on us. But we need to rely upon God and other people. That's why we're a part of a body, that we can call on one another for help. And that's, elders have to do that, deacons, call on other people for help. Sometimes we're kind of ashamed to do that, or, sometimes it's difficult to communicate. But that's God's will, that everyone be involved. And that's how do you know when God is calling you? We've talked about that before. If somebody asks you, can you help do this? It may be that's God working through that person, asking you to get involved in something. It's easy to say no, but it's perhaps better for us, better for the church, when we see that as the call of God. So Moses had to learn that. That's right.
Maybe it's a lesson in
But he
humility.
couldn't do it all himself.
And patience.
Yeah, we'll try to do all of this as we go through Numbers, because there's going to be quite a bit of challenge that Moses faces. And he complains. He's, not afraid to talk to God and say, I don't like this. What are you doing? And yet, okay.
So God, said that he was gonna send this meat for them,
Yeah,
and for a whole month. And it's interesting then, after God says that, he's doubting God's ability to
Yeah.
send that much meat. He says, I've got 600,000 men here, and you're
A lot
gonna,
of meat.
there's gonna be enough meat for
Yeah,
all that?
yeah.
And God says, is my arm too short? I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's interesting.
that's a lesson to keep in mind. And is my arm too short? There's nothing that God can't do. That's one of the powerful lessons of these accounts in the Old Testament. God's arm is not too short. It can solve any problem. Anyway, it's amazing. A wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. It brought them down all around the camp to about 3 feet above the ground, as far as a day's walk in any direction. That's a lot of meat, isn't it? But all that day and all that night, the next day the people went out and gathered. No one gathered less than 10 homers. They spread it out, but while the meat was still between their teeth, and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore, the place was named Kibroth Hattaavah. Didn't see it in today, how many there. But sometimes I'd say that plague consumed thousands of people. Anyway, we think of Moses and the trial that he was under, but God used him because of his character, and he uses us for jobs because of our abilities and our character. Again, you may not be the leader of 600,000 men or 3 million people. You may not be mayor of Chicago. You may be a teacher. You may be a leader in some place. You may be, whatever you do, you meet with people and you have an opportunity to influence people. And God has given us, you, everyone, abilities to work in his kingdom. So, what was one of, well, that's the next question. Miriam and Aaron are mentioned in this book. So I phrased it. What sins of Miriam and Aaron are recounted?
We're questioning Moses.
They were critical.
Yeah, chapter 12. Miriam is Moses' sister. She's the one who was instrumental in helping preserve his life when he was born and cast down the river. Aaron is Moses' brother. He's a high priest of Israel, although we've seen in the past has been kind of passive, but here they began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife. Some mysterious Cush is a part of a land in Africa. Who was Moses' wife? There is a Cushite wife. We learned earlier that when Moses left Egypt and went into the land of Midian, he met the man named Reuel or Jethro, and he took his daughter to be his wife. Zipporah was her name. And I don't know if she was of Cushite descent, from what we can tell. She was of Midianite descent or Semite descent. Did she die? She went away then back home after a while. Moses set out on this wilderness adventure. She visited him and then went back to be with her father.
Well, her father was Midianite.
For,
What was her mother?
we don't know.
Yeah.
So who was the Cushite wife? We don't know if Zipporah died and Moses took another wife, if he had more than one wife. We just don't know. But anyway, their complaint is more like, hasn't the Lord also spoken through us? They're a little jealous of Moses. They would like to be, as his brother and sister, play a more prominent role in the leadership of Israel. So the parenthetical there in verse 3 of chapter 12 is one of the most interesting aspects of this story. Now, Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. That's quite a compliment. This version says humble. The older version said, now Moses was a very meek man, more meek than anyone else on the face of the earth. Anybody have a different word other than humble or meek?
Oh, I got both.
Oh, God, okay,
Meek and humble, I would go there.
okay.
But
Yeah,
I also have to know that's why God chose him to be
yeah,
the leader. Because he was moldable.
okay, moldable is a good thing. Doesn't think too highly of himself, we would say, is humility. Meekness,
Not weakness.
what's that?
We think of weakness when you're a meekness,
Yeah,
but it's not weakness. It's really an
No.
inner strength. What it means.
I've said a couple times before, actually, I preached a sermon on this years ago. How do we see the meekness of Moses? How do we define it? And one answer to that is found in this book of Numbers. It's found in the early chapters and throughout the book. But to me, the key to this meekness is if we look at the last verse of each of the first few chapters of Numbers. For instance, God gave commands on how the tribes were to be organized and so on in chapter 1. Look at chapter 1, verse 24. The Israelites did all this just as the Lord commanded Moses. Okay, just as the Lord commanded Moses, the Israelites did it. Look at the last verse of chapter 2. The Israelites did everything the Lord commanded Moses. That is the way they encamped under their standards, and that is the way they set out, each with his clan and family. Did everything the Lord commanded Moses. The Lord commanded Moses, he commanded the people or let them know, and that's what they did. Last verse of chapter 3. They collected redemption money for livestock and so on. The last verse, Moses gave the redemption money to Aaron and his sons as he was commanded by the word of the Lord. We read over those verses, but they're just, then when they were counting the people, the last verse of chapter 4, thus they were counted as the Lord commanded Moses. That's meekness. That's what the Lord wants. Someone who gets things done just as the Lord commanded.
He did it God's way.
Do it God's way.
We might say, hey, I got a better way to do it. I try to go another way.
And those verses are throughout the book of Numbers. To me, that's the definition of meekness, humility. Do it the Lord's way. Let the Lord's will be done. Obedience. Speak as the Lord. But Moses and Aaron didn't like that. So anyway. Miriam, what?
Miriam and Aaron didn't.
Miriam and Aaron. Yeah, I'm sorry. Miriam and Aaron didn't appreciate that. So what happens?
They're punished.
The Lord says, the anger of the Lord burned against them, and Miriam was made to be leprous. What happens to Aaron? Nothing that we know of. Why? Again, Abram comes across as kind of a passive character. Seems like the events suggest that Miriam was the kind of the leader of the conspiracy there. She's the one that has leprosy, and Moses prays for her, and so she is separated from the camp for
We're ready to get rid of her.
7 days.
Put her outside the camp,
That's right.
quiet her down.
The Lord, if her father had spit in her face, would she not have been in disgrace for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she can be brought back. And the people did not move on until she was brought back.
Aaron was worried about it. Oh, my Lord, do not punish us. Because we
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah. It's interesting. He's involved in this. He was involved in the golden calf. A kind of a, and yet he's the high priest.
Wishy-washy.
Yeah, it seems that way. But maybe he was useful in keeping the ceremonies and offerings going and all of that. The Lord was willing to use him. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of he's kind of a mysterious character, but still high priest of Israel. God uses people with faults. If Aaron was too passive, too willing to go along, still God could use him. What did he have? He could speak for Moses in Egypt. Maybe he was a good orator. I don't know. Maybe he could preach a good sermon. We don't know. Anyway, these are some of the kind of the deeper things in Numbers that we see. Numbers 13, the Lord says, send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders. So they list the leaders, this is in chapter 13, of the tribes who are going to be spies into the land of Canaan. They're getting closer. And I guess the Lord wants to prepare the people for what they're likely to see. So Joshua is one of the ones, that's the ones that we know of the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, who's later named Joshua, and then of the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. Otherwise, the names are kind of forgettable, and they are forgotten. So what's the report? They go all through the land and into the hill country of the land of Canaan. They look at the people who are there. What kind of land is it? What kind of towns, walled or fortified? What's the soil like? What are the trees like? So they go and look around to Hebron. That's the southern part of the land. The valley of Eshcol and so on. They carry it on a pole. Bearing a single cluster of grapes, it takes 2 of them to carry it on a pole. And pomegranates, figs.
They're pretty heavy grapes.
Yeah, pretty fruitful.
Well, there were giants there, right?
Well, that's right. That's what they're going to say.
Giant grapes.
Was there? Did they render an accurate report of what they found?
And the milk and honey
That's an interesting
and
point.
fruit.
They did. They said, they showed the fruit and all of that. We went to the land. It does flow with milk and honey. The Lord had promised that. Here is its fruit, but the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there, giant. The Amalekites live in the Negev, the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. There's a lot of people there. And so, what are they saying?
These people are too powerful, we
Yeah.
can't
Can't do it,
do it.
can't go in. But Caleb silenced the people and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, but we can certainly do it. And, but the men who'd gone up with him said, no, we can't attack those people. They spread a bad report. So in a sense, the report is accurate, but they slant it in such a way as, well, we seem like grasshoppers and can't do it. What's the consequence of that?
It's been a while since I read this, but don't they like some people die, right? If they don't get to
Yeah,
the ones like cowered in fear.
all of the Israelites grumble. Here again, if only we'd stayed in Egypt, our wives and children will be taken as plunder. It'd be better for us to go back to Egypt. We should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. So,
Go on there.
you know, Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly, gathered there. Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceeding good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. So, anyway,
Where it comes down to trust, they're either gonna trust God,
that's right.
go forward with what he said he would do, or they're not gonna trust him.
Sometimes the work that the Lord wants us to do seems impossible. The people, they just are too much for us to deal with. The situation is too much for us to deal with. And we just don't want to do it. And
So some people had faith, some people didn't.
what's the Lord's reaction? The glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting. This is a bright light anyway. The Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me, in spite of all the miraculous signs I've performed among them? I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they. Again, Moses, meekness comes. Some people I say, okay, go ahead, get rid of him. I'm tired. Moses has said, I'm tired of him before. But now he says, what's his reaction? Kind of an argument.
He says, if you do that, if you kill all of them, the Egyptians are gonna hear about it and kind of laugh, oh, well, you led these people out, but they rebelled, and so the Egyptians will think that God doesn't have
Can't do it.
power.
Word gets around there. We think of this as, just a kind of.
So I wonder how they didn't have the internet or
They
newspaper,
didn't, yeah.
radio or anything like that.
People are coming in and out of this camp. They're trading. People are moving around, bringing stories. Later on, when they get into the promised land, we find out, in the case of Rahab, their reputation has preceded them. They've heard what has happened. But anyway, Moses pleads for the people. And what's the Lord's response? Okay, but these people are not going to go in. This generation is not going to go in. They were afraid for their children. That's the generation that's gonna go. So, anyway, that's the way it works out for the Lord. And, anyway, we'll take it up there next time. Thanks for your thoughts and your comments. I guess the bottom line is, there's nothing too big for the Lord. And the Lord will use you, he'll use me to accomplish his will, if we'll let him,
We'll be meek,
if we have courage,
meek like Moses.
if we have meekness, like Moses had meekness.
Good lesson for us, very good.
Okay,
Feel
more
okay
on
back
numbers
there?
next time.
All right, yeah.